So as many of you are aware, I wrote a book. This was about a year and a half process, and I'd like to thank a lot of the people as part of Huge who helped make this happen. People like Willow, Joe, and Dorian who helped with the creative. Some of the folks in the strategy who helped with research. It was really a team effort to make it come to life. The book is called Users, Not Customers. And I'm going to talk about the book today, but I'm actually talking about something bigger than the book because it is a book, but it's actually about a much bigger issue that's facing all of our clients that we work with, as well as really every company in our entire economy. And that topic is transformation. And what I mean by that is that we're going through a major shift in our economy that hasn't been well talked about, but I think is really, really transformative if you really think about what this means. And this is a chart with some data from Forrester Research that actually shows the percentage of sales that are in our economy that are a result of digital. So this can be people who just buy something online, Amazon or something like that, or they research something first and then buy it in the store. And what's interesting you can see is that this year it's 48%, but in a few months in 2012 we're at an inflection point at 50%, and then it grows from there. So it's pretty incredible when you think about it. If you take a step back and think that digital, which is only 20 years old, that barely existed a generation ago, is now responsible for the majority of all of the purchases that happen in our entire economy. It's a pretty amazing thing to think about the impact that digital has. And this impact, as big as it is today, is only going to grow over time. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the post-digital. We talk about this with a lot of our clients. And for the post-digital generation, this is my cousin Tara, who fits this generation, so I always use her picture. And she's really a model of this new type of consumer, where basically digital is the first thing that they do for everything. They don't know what it means to go online because they're always online. Digital is the first place they go to buy, to shop, to do everything online. It's really their preferred choice. So in a few years, the Taras of the world are going to be the primary decision maker for all household and business purchases. So if you think about it, as much as digital is a big deal now, in 5 years, when all these people become the primary buyers of our entire society and our decision makers and companies deciding whether or not they should hire companies like Huge, that's a really, really big change in what our economy is going to be like. So in this kind of world, a lot of our thinking is that, well, if we're in a world where wholesale for digital, that really means there's no such thing as an offline business. It means that every single company must be digital to be successful. And this is the kind of challenge that exists for every single company. So it's a pretty transformative thing. And with this kind of background, we really started to think a lot about what is it that companies have to do to be successful in this new world. And more specifically, how can companies avoid the fate of places like Borders and Blockbuster and all the companies that we all used to know and love are now out of business thanks to the internet. So this also has a lot of resonance because a lot of you may not realize this, but this actually has a lot to do with what we do at Huge every day. Huge is about building great digital experiences, but it's really a lot, our business is really a lot more than that because a lot of our clients call us and they say I need a redesign or I need a social media campaign or a mobile app. They might be saying all of those things about when they want to create a digital experience, but what they are really looking for is transformation. They're really trying to transform their business to be successful online. And that's fundamentally what we're doing. When we create great work for Target or Pepsi or any of these companies, what we're doing is helping them be successful in digital, helping them transform their whole company. So a lot of what I do every day is think about business transformation. And when it was time for the book, we really started to formalize that thinking and saying, okay, well, in a much more systematic way, what is it the company needs to do to be successful in this new economy? So to answer this question, we did some research, which we called the Digital Leadership Set. So there was a self-research team that sat in the corner over there, and what they did was they spent about 3 or 4 months looking at the Fortune 1000, and they surveyed all those companies, and they looked for the companies that were within that set of 1,000 Fortune 1000. What are the companies that are most successful in transition to digital? And what are the kinds of things that they did that made them successful? And what are those learnings that we can apply to lots of other companies? So one of the main findings from this work was a very, very different shift of how people think about business. So for 30 years, if you went to business school and you talk about management 101, people always say that if you focus on your customers, you're going to be successful as an organization. And a lot of what came down to research was that, well, that's all well and good. In today's more digital economy, what really matters is this much broader set of users. And companies that focus on users are the ones that are increasingly successful. And what I mean by users are really anyone who uses a company's digital footprint. So these can be customers. For example, if I'm at Amazon and I buy something on Amazon, I'm using Amazon.com, but I'm also a customer of Amazon. But these can also be things like potential customers, it can be employees, prospects, influencers. Really, everybody who interacts with a company's broader digital footprint is this user base. And so the companies that are most successful, starting with the ones that we all know and love the most, companies like Apple and Google, have this relentless focus. This relentless focus on meeting user needs. And what I mean by that is really two things. First of all, is this idea that if you focus on your user base and people who are using your digital footprint, then naturally your customer base is going to grow. But also, if you think about your customers as users and think about them less about these people that go to your store, but people who are really users that are using your digital environment, then you're poised to be much more successful. So this is a very different way of thinking. And as many of you think about how you all interact with our clients on a day-to-day basis, often a lot of our clients aren't thinking about the user base that much. It's often what we have to introduce to our clients. They're often thinking about people who go to a store, people who pick up the phone. They're not really thinking about that this user base is going to be the majority of the way that people interact with your company. So it's a very, very big philosophical shift. So how can companies make this shift? Well, one way to think about it is that all companies need what I call a software layer. And what that basically is that every company can have their core business that they've been doing all along for maybe generations and generations. Like I'm in the shoe business, I'm going to sell shoes, that's what I've always done. But now there's this new software layer that wraps around your entire business, which is basically this digital ecosystem that's increasingly the way that you interact with your business. And this software layer is more and more determinant of what makes a company successful. So some examples of the software layer could be things like a website, your APIs, mobile apps, social. It's any way you can possibly interact with a company through digital. So these organizations that are successful effectively are running two businesses. They have your core business, what they've always done, and this new software layer that's increasingly how people interact. And the companies that are successful think about this secondary software business as the same way that Google will think about running Google or Amazon thinks about running Amazon. It's effectively two businesses that now companies have to run. So in peeling back beyond even further, we came up with this model called the user-first company. And what that is a company that's oriented to run the software layer and really how to organize and run your business effectively. And most of the focus of the book is actually about how to become a user-centric company and all the different ways a company has to be structured and organized to be successful as a user-first business. So we have this fun chart that describes it. Fun as fun can be in a business book. At the center of everything is our users. And there are four main touch points that users interact with the company, which is the way in which companies should structure their products, marketing, sales, and customer service. And then there are some internal drivers that help power all these things, which is how companies manage the organization technology is set up. And all of those things propel growth, which really propels the organization forward. So this is kind of the overriding management structure that I've talked a lot about in depth in the book that really defines all the different ways in which a company should be structured. And as we get into some examples, you'll see a lot of this resonates because roughly half of the case studies in the book are actually case studies and clients that many of you worked on. So a lot of these stories should have some resonance. So let's talk about each of these in detail. User-centric management is the management style that I talked about, which is this user-first orientation. It's really a pretty simple concept. It's really about managing with the user in mind. It's thinking about this new constituent, the user, and having the management discipline of thinking about how your business should be run and structured so that users can be successful. One of the tools in which companies can do this to think about is what I call the user-centric management triangle. Some of you may have seen versions of this in some of our process slides, but the idea is that we're combining user goals, business goals, and technical feasibility, and really balancing them all together. And companies that balance those things the right way, profitability is maximized. So it's really thinking about all those different areas to make companies successful. The next area is concentric organization. And what this is really trying to answer the question of how can companies succeed when they have limited digital resources. One of the things many of you probably come across in your consulting activities is that companies are stretched for resources and they often lack the expertise to really do digital effectively. So it's this transformational shift. And so how can companies succeed and become user-centric when they don't even have the people internally who know how to do digital well? So the analogy that came to mind is that the problems that companies have are very similar to what Facebook has. If you think about what Facebook is as an entity, Facebook is a pretty small group of people who are this central core, and they run this amazing website called Facebook. And that website, Facebook, is a tool that makes it incredibly easy for millions and millions and millions of people to use digital in a way that they can communicate with the world. So that model can really be applied to almost any organization, where you can think about it as there's a digital core, which is a central group of really, really good digital people that empowers a broader base of communicators, which in the case of Facebook would be the people who use Facebook. In a company, could be lots of employees that don't know digital, but they have lots of tools like CMS solutions and things like that that help them communicate properly. And that finally gets communicated out to the audience, which are the broader sphere of users that are from the outside world. So by applying this model, which basically boils down to having one digital thing done really well that is designed in a way that's used throughout the entire organization, that companies can amplify the digital expertise they have to a broader set of people that allows the full organization to digitally enable. And if you think about a lot of work that we've done, everything from Reader's Digest to Reuters, a lot of that work is thinking about a single platform that's applied for many, many countries, 4 Seasons, or maybe there's another example of that. So it's that kind of model. The next internal driver that I talk about is what I call disposable technology. And we've all seen from many of our clients that many of our clients have technologies that are woefully behind the times, big legacy systems, that often creates the barriers for how companies can really integrate digital in a powerful way. So a great example of this is back in the day, Blockbuster was like this. Netflix was a really small upstart that they didn't pay attention to because they were a small local company that did technology well and were relevant to the larger video game business. Blockbuster decided, well, we should get serious with digital. Here's the solution. So they actually decided to hire Enron, believe it or not, to build all of their technology that was going to make Blockbuster be successful. It was a 20-year partnership that ended about 6 months after the contract was signed for obvious reasons. And it's one of many stories of Blockbuster's foibles where they actually had the right strategy in place, but consistently made technology decisions that were very, very old school and big enterprise oriented, as opposed to a much more faster and nimble approach that's exemplified by Netflix and a lot of startups. So I call this disposable technology. Basic idea is that the companies that are most successful have this mentality where you're doing lots of rapid agile development, constantly iterate the launch, improve what you're doing over time, and in the end, throw away stuff if necessary. So it's a very different way of doing technology with large IT enterprise systems that we're all familiar with and many of our clients have. So those are the internal drivers, and they power 4 external touch points that really is how all users interact with the company on a very concrete basis. The first is the actual products. So the challenge that all companies have when they're developing any kind of development is the commoditization. Digital does an amazing job of commoditizing products, and there are lots of reasons for this, but they can be summarized in 3 main drivers. First is that location is no longer a barrier to sales. You look at most businesses were successful because they were the local store in a local region. Or Walmart became successful because they did the same thing in many regions. Now, thanks to the internet, location is no longer a barrier to sales. I can do business with any company in the world where location doesn't matter. That the concrete effect of commoditizing products and driving prices down. Likewise, pricing is transparent thanks to the internet. And finally, quality is transparent as well. Thanks to social media, we can get recommendations and learn about product quality from other users and friends. We don't have to trust a big brand as a proxy for quality. So all these things have the effect of tremendously compressing margins for all companies and all of our clients. So what can companies do to fight it? What we find is that the most successful companies that embrace the digital era create what I call higher quality products. So the basic idea is to create services that combine analog and digital in a unique way, so that there's a new service offering that you can use as a company or as a pure physical store pure play. That combination is more powerful. And because the service is data-driven, that creates long-term engagement, stickiness, and differentiation. So there's a lot of examples of this. One example, for example, is Chase. I don't know how many of you use their mobile application. It was very innovative where you could basically do anything on a bank through a mobile device. device, like you can deposit checks, or you can talk to your phone, just things like that. If you look at actually a lot of the conversations happening now in the media, where the attrition of people who use online banking are significantly less likely to switch to another bank. And that's creating lots of problems for consumers as banks now raise and add on lots of fees. There's gotten a lot of press about this. That's a great example of a company combining a physical offline offering and a service to create something more powerful in combination that is able to withstand commoditization. So it's a very effective tool. We've also seen this with some of our clients that raise this, for example, Nutrisystem. Nutrisystem at the end of the day is the ultimate physical goods company. They're selling physical food shipped to your door. And by creating all the community functionality and services that we've layered on top of that offering, that's now much more powerful than a pure internet-only offering or a pure diet service that's just online, that is just offline, that allows within commodity pricing as well. The next area is utility marketing. And the idea there is that traditionally marketing was all about telling, which is you would blast marketing messages to the world, you would put up 30-second ads and everything else. And the internet works well as things that really help people do things because consumers aren't really paying attention. And there isn't a captive audience where you can blast passive marketing messages. So the marketing that's most effective is marketing that's useful and helping people do things. It's not about spam, it's about true utility. There's a lot of examples from our work that bring this to life. You're all familiar with Pepsi Refresh, which is a great marketing example of helping people do things and being able to build a brand. Or even the most recent Pepsi initiative, Soundbox, which is one right now. That's another great example. Rather than just blast a marketing message about Pepsi, it's a real utility to help people enjoy the television show more, and that in turn creates more brand connections. The next area is sales. And what we looked at then was a very fundamentally basic question, which is why people buy online. And more specifically, why do people buy from Amazon instead of Bob's, GarageSaleSpecials.com? And for that matter, what are the things that an individual company has to do to make sure that their users are going to buy digitally as well? And what we found is that there are four main drivers to driving sales, which can be summarized by trust, convenience, price, and fun. That's the TCPF. And the companies that are most successful are those that really focus in on one or more of those things as their competitive advantage. So, for example, Amazon initially won based on trust, because people trusted that if you actually bought on Amazon, you would indeed get the product, unlike all of the competitors. You have other companies that, like Walmart, that might purely compete on price. You have some companies that will just be convenient, like Red Envelope, where they make it convenient for you to buy just the right gift for you. So, and finally, fun is important because the end shopping is entertainment for lots of people. So, if you have an experience that's more enjoyable or pleasurable to use, if you think about services like a lot of new shopping and fashion services, they're fundamentally entertainment, and that creates a differentiator way that others buying. The final area is what I call bilateral customer service. And that answers the question of how should companies structure them so that customer service can be effective for their organization. And to answer this question, we went back to the post-digitals and looked at what do they want from customer service. And that can be summarized as three quotes. Number one is, consistent with everything else in digitally, they really don't want to talk to anyone. They get bored when they have to get on the phone or do anything. So fundamentally, let me solve that problem online. And the number one customer service problem we see is that companies don't do this. Instead, they force you to pick up the phone and call, and that makes people really annoyed and pissed off. But the flip side to this is that when this person is confused and they don't know what to do, they want to talk to someone right away. Like going to the Apple store and talking to the Genius Bar, or being able to tweet someone and get a response right away. So it's this interesting balance for what makes customer service effective, is this balance between amazing customers and self-service, plus even better full service. And you have to really do both of those things really well to win. And with the companies who do that, customer service then becomes a marketing vehicle because it generates positive word of mouth, and customer service then becomes a marketing expense in a way to further build your brand or your business. So it becomes a bigger driver. So that's basically it. That's pretty much what everything's about, and what we saw as a model for how companies transform their business. So the URL is your users, not customers, and that's pretty much it. questions, or and I can be less tilted, so I'll be recording. We'll probably raise a lot of things fast, but I just want to give everyone a taste of the kinds of management theories and stuff that we talk about. Yeah?
Do I feel that expensive?
Excuse me?
Do I feel that expensive?
Sam is, so again, those of you who came in late, we had a social media experiment, which is like, I let everyone have a copy of the book, but it would be great if you could all buy the book yourself on Amazon, since there's a theory about how Amazon list works, and then we will reimburse you. So I was going to send you a follow-up email on how you can actually get reimbursed. Yeah,
Kindle or hardcover?
What do you say?
Kindle or hardcover?
Whatever your heart desires. I personally think reading the book is a better experience than paper. I realize that we're rather than this thing. Yes.
Who do you think has
So to be really candid, I was successful in finding a single company that I would do really well, and I tried really hard to do it. But in the end, I tend to find that the companies that really did the best job were the internet pure plays, and it just wasn't that interesting. You know, you get on the book with all the things that Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Amazon do it. So there are a lot of examples of individual things, which certainly are the companies that do it well. For example, if you look at Procter & Gamble, they've done an amazing job in embracing utility marketing approach for a lot of times in marketing. They're even doing a lot of stuff in e-commerce, which was early days. They're doing a really great job in that area. Similarly, firms like American Express, they've done a really good job for putting out products and creating digital services to buy their products. In the technology space, you look at stuff like whitehouse.gov, they've done a really good job in how they go there. So there's a lot of vertical patterns, but it wasn't us that was really on everything. We did actually have a listing of digital leadership set with the top 20 companies that were the highest ranked. So that included all the usual technology suspects, and also firms like JetBlue scored really high. What were the other ones? Federal Express, UPS, just to help with some other research, Home Depot. So there was a pretty good list of the top companies. We actually rated every single one. We rated companies in the Fortune 1000 based on metrics, and then the top 20 companies in the Fortune 12. Yeah.
What do you feel about Netflix's decision to scrap Quickster just a couple of weeks after they announced it? Do you think it was an irresponsible move, or do you think it was a company listening to their users and making a fascinating decision?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. So they did a great job. I mean, it was a voting decision to begin with, right? So if they were really focused on it, they would have never made a decision in the first place. But kudos to them for making that, for reversing course. That's a classic example, though, of that decision of a lot of the short-sighted management stuff that we saw in a lot of the research for companies that fail. Which is that a lot of companies too often they just ignore what users want, right? Because they're really out of mind. Even physical customers are easy to realize they're real because you see them in focus groups, or they go to your store, they pick up the phone and call. Users are these anonymous people that show up in analytics, so they don't really seem real. And as a result, I personally find a lot of companies, it's too easy to put them out of mind. They have these highfalutin business strategies of what they're going to do that just piss off their user base, and they're not really striking that balance, that triangle that I was talking about earlier. So it's a pretty common thing. You probably see all of your client work where companies are obsessed about the business strategy, not thinking about the users and what they really expect from these experiences. Yeah. Sure. So I think the real reason Circuit, I think that digital doesn't contribute, right? I think the real reason Circuit, I think that, so if you look at that industry had a massive shift, stating the obvious, from people buying in stores to buying online, right? So the question is, how do you get that shift? And Best Buy made the decision that the way they were going to try to react to that shift was first have a very good digital experience, try to sell online, and everyone did because of conversation on the web. But also that they were going to make the physical store stand for something, which is about customer service, and that personal touch that people want to hold electronics and hardware, which is something that you don't do in the store. Circuit City, by contrast, First, it didn't have as good a retail footprint as Best Buy, which put them at a disadvantage in a consolidated play. And that's probably, that's probably the majority of the reason why they're not in business. The second one is they didn't have that strategy. So their digital, all their online digital stuff was more rigorous than Best Buy. They had a lot of technical snafus, a little more along the lines of what Blockbuster did. And the other thing was that they made a strategic decision to cut costs within the store to have the store not be about customer service. They changed all the compensation commission models to go with low-cost people. And the result was that the store was not a differentiated experience. So we have an environment where the industry is consolidating online, and only one player is going to survive in the physical world, and wasn't all about customer service that we would use to go to the store. And Circuit City did it. It pretty much speaks for itself. So that was kind of our take. I was actually going to do a really big case study about Circuit City in the book, and through the editing process, it actually ended up getting cut out. So we did it was initially about 3 pages, and then in the editing process, it ended up on my website, but we ended up doing a lot of we ended up doing a lot of research. So I don't know if you know, right, since you work there, you know more than me. And the other thing that came up in research that helped with visual was they signed a lot of travel leases. So there was not a lot of really bad pieces that created management. Anything else? Great. Thanks, everybody.